afternoon and welcome to Dialogue with Deidre. I'm your host, Deidre Malone. We have an exciting show today. In the studio, I have the mayor of the great city of Memphis, Jim Strickland, and we're going to be talking about the upcoming budget discussions. He's already presented his budget to the city council, and I am so pleased to have the mayor in the Dialogue with Deidre studio. Welcome to Dialogue with Deidre, Mayor.
Thank you so much, Deidre. As soon as you said we're going to talk about the budget, everyone turned channels.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They want to know what the priorities are. But before we go into talking about the budget, I have to let our viewers know we've known each other a long time. I was joking before the show started that I was looking for one of our pictures from 1995. Couldn't find it, but you know what? I'm going to find that photo and I will share it with our viewers, and we all will get a quick chuckle.
We don't look any different.
We don't. We still look fabulous. Let me just say that. So, Mayor, how has it been? You enjoy what you're doing as the mayor of Memphis?
I love it every single day. It is the best job in Memphis. It's challenging, it's interesting. I actually see the results of what we're doing. I see the promise of what's ahead. I get to deal with good people. Memphians are so nice and welcoming. I just really love the job.
So what has been the biggest challenge since becoming the mayor?
Time.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt about it. It's just time to do all that I want to do. In theory, I would go to every single location where there are city employees just to interact. I would go to as many neighborhood meetings, and it's just so many. There's 6,500 employees who work for the city of Memphis.
Wow.
So I've gone to a lot, but there's so many more to go to. It's just almost impossible. And then you have meetings and meetings, and then finding time in your day just to do real work is sometimes difficult. And you want to be accessible, so it's just time management.
It is, but you have a wonderful staff, so I'm sure they help you a great deal.
It's so funny. When I got elected in October, sworn in January, I knew how important it would be to hire good people. Now I really know how important it is. We have a really good team because they do so much of the actual heavy lifting.
Right.
And it all depends on how quality they are, and I think we have really good quality.
So what are the priorities for the upcoming budget, Mayor?
Well, it's kind of the same priorities what I ran on and when I presented for my first budget. I think the number one challenge in Memphis is population loss. For 40 years, each and every year, we've lost population. Each year, the census comes out an estimate. They've not come out with an estimate for 2016 yet, but we know in 2015 we had a net loss of 3,000 people. No business, no city can hemorrhage population and survive. We got to change that around. So you got to focus on why they're leaving, and it's crime and schools, and to a lesser degree our high property tax rate, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And the number one thing we have involvement in there is crime, and we're way short of police officers. I mean, it's just, and if you look at the stats, when we had 2,400 officers, crime was at a lower point. Mm-hmm. And as soon as we started losing officers, crime went up. So we're about 400 or 500 officers short. We put a lot of effort into that, and we still are putting effort to recruit and retain officers. We got to fund our pension. Unfortunately, fortunately for the long-term good, but that's more money. And then we got to do more for our kids. Kids have to have something productive to do when they're not in school. And we have libraries and community centers all over this city. And if you compare our libraries and community centers to 20, 30, 40 years ago, they're not doing nearly what they used to do. So we got to return to those, and that frankly takes funds. So this year, we put some more money in our community centers and libraries.
Well, I love the library. I took my grandson to get his library card, and we were over in the section for the third graders. He absolutely loves the library.
At the Hooks Library?
Hooks Library.
Yeah. It's a great library.
So why propose a pay increase for police officers only, Mayor?
Yeah, I would love to give everyone a 10% raise and a tax cut for the taxpayers, and but we just couldn't afford it. Our budget increases by about $10 or $12 million a year naturally without a tax increase because of sales tax increases. So I'm limited to that $10,000 or $12,000. And go back to the answer to my first question, police officers. We've lost way too many police officers, and we did a salary study comparing our police officer pay to our sister cities, and we're underpaying them. And so because we're losing officers, because it's really an emergency situation, the number of officers we have is 1,947. That's as of today. 5 years ago, it was 2,452.
Okay.
That's a stark difference. And sister cities pay more, so we need to do that. I wish we had, it doesn't mean they're more valuable than firefighters or sanitation workers or anything like that. It's just we had limited funds, and I got to go where the emergency is.
Why do you think it's taken us a while to recruit? Do you think it's because of the benefits or, okay?
I think that's one of the, I think there's three causes to our low police officers. And benefits is one, but some people think benefits is the only thing. That's not true. Frankly, before I became mayor, the city didn't do much recruiting.
Okay.
There was 1 year, 2014, where there was 0 recruiting classes. Zero. We didn't recruit enough. And then remember, we naturally lose 100 officers or so a year.
Because of retirement? Okay.
So, and then you add the benefit cuts in there, and that increased that 100 to about 180.
Okay.
So that extra 80 were a result of the loss in benefits. Now, we reduced it in my first year as mayor from 180 to 150. But 150 is still more than 100 or so that we normally lost. We'd like to get that number down to about 120. And then this year, hopefully, will be the first year we'll have a net increase of police officers in about 7 years. We had a police recruit class right now with over 100. We went over 100 in the fall. And then we'll start this slow rise out. Out of this ditch that we're in.
Well, I know that you, from your time on the city council and even when you were running for mayor, you talked about pre-K. I mean, that you're a big supporter of education. And I know the group Fund Students First requested that you put $10 million in this upcoming budget. Why wouldn't you accommodate?
Well, first of all, it came about a week before I presented to the city council, and frankly, at first I thought it was, frankly, just a political statement.
Okay.
And because you know how budgets work, we're at the county.
Exactly.
They start coming together in November.
Right.
And a $10 million hit to a budget, I mean, you may be able to change up 100,000 here or 200,000 there at the last minute. But in fact, by the time I got the letter, I was done with my work, and it was off getting ready to be printed. So it came way late. But then there's other issues. First of all, our sister cities in our Germantown, Collierville, they do have city tax dollars going to schools. But they did two things. They had a referendum to create a special school district, and two, they had a referendum for a sales tax increase. They did not start paying it out of their general fund. So we don't have the $10 million.
Okay.
The public has not bought off on this, and they might. I think they would be wiser to propose a sales tax increase. And maybe that's going to be part of the discussion. But none of those people on that letter called or visited with me before they sent me the letter, and then they send me the letter and they immediately copy the media. And I'd like to get things done. Right. I don't think that's the way you get things done.
So would you be open to meeting with them?
I
know it's back in now.
Yeah.
But would you be open to meeting and having that discussion? Because based on what you're trying to do when it comes to libraries and to the community centers, there might be some synergy there with that discussion.
Right. And I'm happy to talk with anybody. But our operating budget is so tight, there's not $10 million for schools.
Right.
Now, sales tax referendum, if that comes up, there's several entities who are interested in that money. There's a whole effort going on pre-K.
Right.
Pre-K might want another chance at getting universal pre-K.
That would be wonderful.
MATA, our public transportation, frankly, is completely underfunded. Last year, we put more money, a bigger increase in MATA in a long time, but they need $20-30 more million to really run an adequate system.
Right.
Not a superstar system, an adequate system. So you have all these people who are talking generally about maybe a sales tax increase. So, there's got to be some cooperation and collaboration on that.
Well, I'm glad to hear you mention MATA. Originally, even though I've spent most of my life now here in Memphis, originally from Chicago, and they have a heck of or at least Dawn, they used to have a great transit system. I don't know about it now with still do? Okay. With the L and all of that.
Yes, it's great.
So,
I've used it. But Memphis is larger geographically than Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
We're larger geographically than New York. Boston is 22 square miles. Memphis is 340 square miles. And we have zero density. You've got a picture over here. Is that New York or
Could
Chicago?
Be. I have no
I don't
idea,
know.
Doc. What is that?
But you think
Is New York?
New York.
Okay.
But you think about New York and Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
everyone lives on top of each other,
Right.
and it's dense. It's easy to run mass transit there. In Memphis, we're spread out all over the place. There's very little density, and you have to have a bus be prepared to go from Fraser to Hickory Hill. The problem with our transit system, some people will say, oh, they're waste or mismanagement. That's not true. Problem is funding.
Okay.
And we spend less money on our transit system per capita than I think any major city in the country, and we have the challenge of being so spread out. So,
But most of that money, and I don't want to deviate because I know
Sure.
we've got to prove it, but most of that money, those are federal dollars, right?
Most.
Okay.
We put some money in, and like I said, we worked with the council last year and gave more capital money for the MATA and
Okay.
more operating money for MATA, millions of dollars more.
Mm-hmm.
But they are still so short. And frankly, I don't think we're going to get any more money from the feds, and maybe less.
Oh, yeah.
So we need to deal with this issue locally.
Okay.
And one other last thing on public transportation. The voting constituency for public transportation, if people are considering a sales tax referendum, is not very big. We as a community need to promote public transportation to the public more so that the public is saying we need a better system. You just don't hear that. You hear it from some,
Right.
but it's a very small group.
Well, Mayor, before you get out of here, I want you to just kind of share with our viewers anything you think is important that you have going on with the city right now,
Wow.
outside of the budget.
Well, I mean, the most complaints I get is crime. I get several emails a day, several calls a day, and I'm not exaggerating. People are afraid. It's the reason I ran, and frankly, I think it's the reason I won. We as a community need to do better. But let's just assume we get 500 new police officers. That alone is not going to solve our crime problem. We got to do so much more. We talked a little bit about we got to intervene in the lives of more young people.
Yes.
There's so many great groups, Memphis Athletic Ministry, Streets Ministries, our community centers, our libraries, but we're helping thousands. We got to help tens of thousands. And we got to help 30 and 40,000 young people every year. And what I've called on people to be mentors and go in and cooperate with the Shelby County Schools Team Read program. If a third grader reads at third grade level, they have a 90% chance of graduating high school, even if they grow up in poverty. So if we get more kids reading at third grade level and give them really good mentors, we can change lives. But we got to do it in mass numbers. City government, county government, schools can't do it all.
Right.
We got to have the community. We got to have churches and synagogues and mosques and civic clubs and neighborhood associations get more involved. And so it's going to take all that. I do think we need more police, but we need more mentors, frankly, just as much.
Right.
And it's going to take the whole community. But what makes me optimistic about Memphis is a very giving city, and people want to be involved. Since I asked people to volunteer on December 31st to be readers with Team Read in 4 months, They've had 500 new people volunteer,
That's amazing.
including my wife, and it takes 1 hour a day. 1 hour a week. I signed up to be a mentor. We need more mentors. We need more tutoring, and I think Memphis will step up. I really do.
We're giving community.
There's no doubt.
And we love to volunteer.
Yes.
So that's a great option for our viewers. Take the mayor up on it. Mayor, you are always welcome to come back on Dialogue with Deidre whenever you have something you want to discuss with our community, and we appreciate you and the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Mayor Jim Strickland in the studio, and we are so thankful that he is here with us today. Coming up in the next 5 minutes or so, we have City Councilwoman Patrice Robinson. She's going to talk about the budget as well. You are watching Dialogue with Deidre. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment.
My mom is stronger than anyone I've ever known. Growing up when life got hard, her strength helped pull us through. Even after her heart failure diagnosis, she remains stronger than ever.
My family's support keeps me strong. Together, we're rising above heart failure.
Heart failure doesn't have to steal your strength. For simple steps you can take to help prevent, improve, or manage heart failure, go to riseabovehf.org.
For centuries, the hopes, dreams, and promise of this great nation
has been shaped by the African American experience.
Now comes a museum to honor this legacy.
And finally tell their story. Tell all our stories.
A story of courage.
A story of achievement.
The story of a great American people continues. Help us make sure it's heard.
Hi, I'm Venus Williams. You know, I heard recently that the two main reasons for not getting an annual mammogram are limited access and fear. I know that there are low cost and even free screenings at some hospitals and clinics, and I've even heard of mobile mammogram units in some areas. Talk about service. Look, I know getting a screening is not as exciting as shopping, but life is for living. So take the first step to breast health. Get the mammogram. For more information, please visit breastcancerawareness.com.
Did you know that hypertension is a universal risk factor for heart disease and stroke, the leading causes of death and disability in the United States? You can reduce your risk by remembering 3 words: check, change, control. The American Heart Association wants you to take control of your heart health with the help of the Check, Change, Control program, a free online health management tool available at heart360.org. It's free, it's easy, and it's up to you to take control of your heart health. Find out more at heart360.org.
My mom is stronger than anyone I've ever known. Growing up when life got hard, her strength helped pull us through. Even after her heart failure diagnosis, she remains stronger than ever.
My family's support keeps me strong. Together, we're rising above heart failure.
Heart failure doesn't have to steal your strength. For simple steps you can take to help prevent, improve, or manage heart failure, go to riseabovehf.org.
For centuries, the hopes, dreams, and promise of this great nation
has been shaped by the African American experience.
Now comes a museum to honor this legacy.
And finally tell their story. Tell all our stories.
A story of courage.
A story of achievement.
The story of a great American people continues. Help us make sure it's heard.
Hi, I'm Venus Williams. You know, I heard recently that the two main reasons for not getting an annual mammogram are limited access and fear. I know that there are low-cost and even free screenings at some hospitals and clinics, and I've even heard of mobile mammogram units in some areas. Talk about service. Look, I know getting a screening is not as exciting as shopping, but life is for living. So take the first step to breast health. Get the mammogram. For more information, please visit breastcancerawareness.com.
Did you know that hypertension is a universal risk factor for heart disease and stroke? The leading causes of death and disability in the United States. You can reduce your risk by remembering 3 words: check, change, control. The American Heart Association wants you to take control of your heart health with the help of the Check, Change, Control program, a free online health management tool available at heart360.org. It's free, it's easy, and it's up to you to take control of your heart health. Find out more at heart360.org. Did you?
Welcome back to Dialogue with Deidre. I'm your host, Deidre Malone, one of my favorite city council people in the studio, City Councilwoman Patrice Robinson. Welcome back to Dialogue with Deidre.
Thank you, Deidre, and I appreciate you allowing me to be here this morning. I'm really excited to talk about the budget.
And let me just say, look how she brought it with her. It's huge. Councilwoman, the mayor was just on the show, and he talked about the 3 priority areas, of course, law enforcement being one. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts about the priorities?
I think the priorities are what they are because we know crime is really going up, and they say it's going down, but we have so many opportunities to address it. I know a safe community is always number one in our minds. And we need to stop talking about crime, but start talking about what we can do, not just as a city, but as individuals in our community to make it a better place for everyone. Our budget is $668.5 million. That's approximately, not the exact amount. And the police department will be getting an increase of about $5 million to increase their complement of police officers. But I believe that we need to do more than that. We need to be able to address mental health issues because a lot of people end up in our criminal justice system because of mental health issues. And at some point we need to work through that process and what we need to do. Blight in our community is a problem. So I want to share with you that my staff and I get calls every day.
I know you do.
Our calls are not about crime. Our calls are about public works and picking up trash.
Making sure that your neighborhoods are clean,
yes.
right?
And our citizens want our city to be the most beautiful city again, one of the cleanest cities in America, and they are pressing us against the wall. And as we look at the budget, we may have to shift some things. You know, we respectfully disagree sometimes.
Right.
And this is a very tough budget season because we don't have, increasing revenues because I heard the mayor say that we have a lot of population loss. And then he talked about the density of our city, and it needs to be more dense. And then I think about, I just served on a committee about de-annexation. If we're losing population, it kind of disturbs me that we'd even think about de-annexing at this point, because then that's more of a population loss. But I'm not drawing a line in the sand because we haven't gotten all the information yet, and we're still going to work to make this the best fit for every citizen in Memphis, not just small pockets and not just the squeakiest wheel.
Let me just say that you have always been a very thoughtful, very diligent in your work. When you study, you do your homework on your issues.
Yes, I try.
And so I know blight has been a concern in our community, of course, crime. And then I noticed that in the budget, one of the priorities the mayor had was additional dollars for paving of the streets.
Mm-hmm.
You think that's needed?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
That's another call that we get, especially in my district in particular, because I have over 40% of industry in my district. So I've got trucks running up and down Airways, Holmes Road, Shelby Drive, Winchester, and they are tearing those streets up. We have an average of 25 to 27 year repavement cycle.
Right.
That's a lot of years, and we're just patching it up and patching it up. I believe that we need to look at doing that more often, but that requires us to get additional state dollars to help us with that process. But we are really, I'm pressing the staff to, spend a little more time and thinking about and being more thoughtful about how we repave streets. Potholes will tear up your car, the tire, your rim, and your alignment.
That's so true. That's so true. Another issue, and I know you've been on the school board, so you understand the school system. You understand how they're funded. Mm-hmm. And this group, as I mentioned to the mayor, requested from the mayor. I don't even know if a letter was sent to.
Yes, council
members too.
Yes, for $10 million for the school district. You know that we don't have that luxury at this point. But I want to be able to do meaningful things to enhance what the educational system is doing. So during this budget process, we started yesterday evening, and I've got staff calculating, and I'm calculating as we go. How much money do we actually spend on Shelby County schools, students, and youth in our community? Wherever it pops up, I'm writing it down. So yesterday we came up with about $5 to $6 million.
Oh, already?
Already,
wow.
Yes. And that was just some HVAC at 2 schools in our school system, and the old Melrose High School, the city is going to have that building demolished. So those are additional dollars. But just over the last 3 months, we've had a program at 7 community centers. It's a reading program called Lexia Reading. And we are encouraging young people right now. We're doing a pilot program, ages 5 to 8. And I encourage citizens to use that program. But we're going to move forth and have reading programs in all community centers over the summer. So we are collaborating and working with the school district to make sure that when they are not just playing, we're ensuring that they keep their reading level up. Hopefully they move forward, so when they go back to school, they are prepared. We're doing all we can. We're extending the hours at our community centers. We're providing more programming. We're doing what we can in our libraries. We're doing all that we know to do, and I'm going to calculate every dime of that. And then when we see where we are what is true about what we're doing for our children and our youth and our community, and then we can talk about how much we can do in addition to. We're not even through paying for on the lawsuit to the school system.
And that's a couple of thousand. It's not that much.
No, it's $1.4 million a
year. Okay. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yes, we're spending some money, and I don't want us to look like we're the deadbeat dad.
Right.
We're not. And every citizen of Memphis pays Shelby County taxes as well.
That's right.
So we're supporting education. We'd like to do something, and I'd like to partner with the school district more. But as we try to get a hold of our budget and do the basic things that the citizens want, we've got to make sure those things are done, make sure that we support our children. And we're even bringing on more children next year. We're including, this year we're doing 1,000 students for the summer youth jobs.
Wonderful.
And summer employment. And then next year we're adding additional 400. And as we get more money, as we free up more money, and as we go through this budget, you might see a lot of changes.
Okay. and that's the process. I mean, the process. The mayor, submits a budget and shares with you what he likes to believe his priorities or he or she's their priorities are. And then it is up to, the legislative body to say, okay, well, this is what we're going to fund, right? That's how
correct.
It works.
That's how it works.
And so there's going to be a lot of deliberation, a lot of back and forth, and normally you come out with something that both the legislative and executive branch can live with, right?
That's correct. Now, I would like to also share that we've asked Public Works and Robert Kenney to present to the council some different scenarios, because we're having such a problem with the not just trash pickup, but the waste that's left on curbs, like leaves and bags, furniture, mattresses, tires, that kind of thing, and how we could improve that service. Right now, if you make a call and say that we place some things out on the curb, they have up to 21 days. So
that's a long period of time.
Yes, and citizens they're not counting those 21 days. All they say is, when they call me and say, it's been out there a long time, and we need that up. So we're talking about what we can do a little differently. So he's presented to us, this is what we can currently do with what we're raising, because their fund is basically self-funded.
Right, through a fee, okay.
Yes, and they gave us a Volkswagen plan, a Cadillac plan, and a Mercedes plan. And we're looking at that, but as I get feedback from citizens, they don't want any increases. They want us to be able to be more effective and efficient with what we have. But I also have to be concerned about the citizens who complain the most, and they're not the citizens who are using the sanitation workers that are here in Memphis. They're using an outsourced, the city is using an outsourced firm, and that's where I get most of my complaints. And I don't know what we need to do to make that a more efficient relationship, but we've got to make some changes, and then we've got to make sure that citizens know what they should do about pickup. And we just can't set things out on the street. We may have to put it in the backyard until a particular date, but we're going to have a thorough discussion on that this year.
Councilwoman, I remember years back that with the vendors that you use for sanitation pickup, there are clauses within those contracts, if they haven't changed, that basically say that you can be penalized.
And they have been to the tune of about $300,000 this year.
Well, good.
Okay,
good.
Yes.
Okay. I remember, I don't know why that's stuck in my head, but I remember that there were clauses if you didn't do X, Y, and Z, because it really affects what citizens think about the work that's taking place on behalf of, the city of Memphis.
Right. And I have also asked Public Works to, they have done some studies with our citizens to find out they're basically satisfied with the services to the tune of about 99%. That's really great. With I don't know what group they use or what population, but that was the report that we got. But my concerns is that all citizens don't know the proper process, and we need to make sure it's our responsibility to educate and make sure they understand what they should do. And these set outs when people are being evicted, we got to figure out, how does that work, because that creates probably the most phone calls that we get.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back. I have a few more questions.
Okay.
You are watching Dialogue with Deidre. We have City Councilwoman Patrice Robinson in the studio, and we're talking Memphis City budget. We'll be back in a moment.
My mom is stronger than anyone I've ever known. Growing up when life got hard, her strength helped pull us through. Even after her heart failure diagnosis, she remained stronger than ever.
My family's support keeps me strong. Together, we're rising above heart failure.
Heart failure doesn't have to steal your strength. For simple steps you can take to help prevent, improve, or manage heart failure, go to riseabovehf.org.
For centuries, the hopes, dreams, and promise of this great nation
has been shaped by the African American experience.
Now comes a museum to honor this legacy.
And finally tell their story. Tell all our stories.
A story of courage.
A story of achievement.
The story of a great American people continues. Help us make sure it's heard.
Hi, I'm Venus Williams. I heard recently that the two main reasons for not getting an annual mammogram are limited access and fear. I know that there are low cost and even free screenings at some hospitals and clinics, and I've even heard of mobile mammogram units in some areas. Talk about service. Look, I know getting a screening is not as exciting as shopping, but life is for living. So take the first step to breast health. Get the mammogram. For more information, please visit breastcancerawareness.com.
Did you know that hypertension is a universal risk factor for heart disease and stroke, the leading causes of death and disability in the United States? You can reduce your risk by remembering three words: check, change, control. The American Heart Association wants you to take control of your heart health with the help of the Check, Change, Control program, a free online health management tool available at heart360.org. It's free, it's easy, and it's up to you to take control of your heart health. Find out more at heart360.org. Did you?
Deidre, I'm your host, Deidre Malone. City Councilwoman Patrice Robinson is in the studio. Councilwoman Robinson, as we're discussing this budget, I was glad to see that there is some money allocated for sky cams in each city council district?
Yes,
because some have them and some don't.
No, that's absolutely correct. And we put 70 cameras in this current year's budget as well. And we tried to make sure that we had cameras in all districts, everyone represented, so that we can make our communities safer. We're trying our best to give back to those citizens who are paying those taxes every day. We just don't want them in just one area. So when they hear me, I know they're sick of me. When I come to the table and they present anything, and I ask them, okay, give me the sheet of how it's distributed per district. I don't want it all in one district. It needs to be distributed. Everything that we do needs to be distributed to all taxpayers. And I'm very serious about that. And I know that we should prioritize, but I'm really excited that we'll have 70 more. And we're also looking at placing them in community centers as well.
Wonderful.
Yes. We want citizens to use the community centers. We want them to feel safe when they go there, and I'm really excited that we've already done a park in my neighborhood. A young lady was killed in the Zodiac Park, and that's so sad. And one of the neighbors that lives near that park called and said, we've got to have our camera up there, and the city heard our cry, and we have a camera now up at Zodiac Park. I am so excited about that.
And that's effective council and constituency services too, Councilwoman.
Yes, it is. And I want you to know those cameras, they don't stop thieves, but what it does, it deters crime, and it allows the police department to run the film back and get evidence that they need and additional information. In my community, we use the grant program, and we were able to get 3 cameras up at each. We have 3 entrances into our community, and the first thing that we noticed is that on the main thoroughfare through our community, we have much less traffic. We don't have kids at the corner of a particular street right in front of a school selling drugs anymore. I asked at our neighborhood association meeting Monday night, have you all heard about any break-ins? Anybody stolen anything? Have you seen anything that looked out of sort? And this is the first meeting we didn't have anybody to have anything to report. So
that's wonderful. Yes.
I know personally that those SkyCop cameras work.
Well, let's since we're talking about law enforcement issues, we mentioned that in the budget that the administration is advancing, they're asking for a potential raise for police officers. What are your thoughts about across the board? I know last year there were raises, I think, across the board for employees. What do you think about this year?
My personal belief is that if you're going to do a cost of living increase, or it should be across the board, because it's not just the police officers. They have support staff that work for them. There are other divisions that support the work of the city, and I believe all employees should feel valued, and they're all being pressed by a growing economy.
That's right.
So I believe everyone should participate. But what I did hear the mayor say, and it's so true, that our police officers need to be paid more. And the city, they've done a study around compensation, and that's their salaries, and they should be paid more. I believe that we need to right-size their salaries to make sure they're getting paid correctly. And when we start talking about bonuses or cost of living increases, that belongs to everybody. I don't want the police officers to feel like we're trying to fight them, or I'm trying to fight them. I want to work on behalf of all the citizens and get what we need for everyone. They need their raises. They don't really need raises. They need their salaries to be right-sized and make sure that they get the correct salary. And then when you start talking about raises and bonuses and that kind of thing, that's a different picture for me. Now, I have a little HR background.
Yes, you do.
And it may not be how the city has been operating, but I believe that's a better way of doing it, because now it looks like, you favor the police officers, and that's not how you right-size a salary just by giving a across-the-board increase.
Right. Well, I know that you all are going to be having robust discussion about it.
Yes, we will.
In the upcoming council meetings and budget discussions. What do you think the priorities should be for the city, Councilwoman, with this budget?
our priority should be number one, safety for our community. Number two, we should be working on the blight in our community, because blight increases crime as well. That's something that's really important. And then we need to make sure that our city is beautified. Now, all the other stuff, you know, we can work with it, but those three things to me are really important. We have jobs that are here. I'd like to see more jobs that pay more of a middle class wage rather than these $8, $9, $10 temporary positions, people working 2 and 3 jobs, not being at home to raise their children, which is making the crime rate go up. These children left alone with no parents. So all of it ties together. It is a situation that as a community we need to address, and we need to attract other businesses, and we need to encourage those businesses, especially those that we give pilots to, to work toward paying people the value of the job and whatever competencies they require, and make sure that they train them. And they want them to always come to the table with the training. Most companies have trainers on board. They can train their people to do whatever it is that they need them to do, and over time make them lifelong learners. And then that makes our community better. That reduces our children being out there by themselves, the stress on parents working 2 and 3 jobs, not being able to pay their utility bills because, you know, they have to prioritize as well.
That's right.
And so many children, as I talk to them, I was talking to a principal just last week, it's so sad. The children couldn't get their homework because they're trying to use candles in the home.
Oh my goodness.
We haven't had utilities, and the school is trying to wash their uniforms for them. You wouldn't believe the stress that the principals are under in our community. We have to be more thoughtful about what we do. It's not just a great thing to say people have great part-time $8 an hour jobs. If we were be honest, by the time you pay your rent and
money's gone.
you don't have anything left for utilities, food, or anything else. We really need to be a little more thoughtful. But as a city council person, all I can do is encourage people there. My role is to make sure that our budget serves the citizens that we represent.
Well, Councilwoman, you have spoken truth to power. I hear you, and I'm hoping that our viewers hear you too. It is very concerning to me that we give a lot of companies pilots, and we know when they move here that training is needed for some of these jobs, but we need to be more thoughtful as we start recruiting, I believe.
Yes.
And I'm speaking to the chamber, I'm speaking to EDGE, I'm speaking to those entities that do the recruitment, that what are you going to put in place to make sure that our workforce has those opportunities? And so I was really glad to hear you say that. And thank you so much for being on our show today. Any final thoughts for our viewers before you get out of here?
Yes, I would like to say I need the citizens to pay attention to this budget session, because it's going to shape the future of our city and how we look at it, because we're trying to look at it a little differently, spend a little more time. We're trying to be more thoughtful about all citizens. I need you to chime in, send us a message, send us an email, and say, you know, this is how you ought to prioritize that. Your suggestions work. I hear you, other councilmen know, and we need your help. We don't know it all. We need you to chime in. Thank you.
And let me just say that what she just said is very rare. You very seldom hear an elected official inviting you to do anything. And so please, please take her up on her word and, you know, let her know what you think. You know, go and look at the budget. Let her know what you think in your city council representatives too, and then the mayor.
Yes.
Let them know what you think about what is being proposed. Councilwoman, thank you so much for being on Dialogue with Deidre. And you know, it's an open door policy for you. Anytime you want to come back, you can.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And before we get out of here, I just want to say happy anniversary to the Carter Malone Group.
Yay!
Today, Councilwoman, we have been around 14 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
So it's a long time, and I feel very blessed. To God be the glory, because we know that we would not have been able to survive without him. If you go to my Facebook page, I talk about how when I spoke to my husband about starting the business, he's never really told me no on anything. And I know his head was probably about to explode when he said, "You're going to walk away from, this 6-figure salary, Deidre, to start a business." But he said, "Do it if that's what you want to do." And so, sweetheart, thank you so much for always having my back. And we are so thrilled to be still standing and improving and just moving forward. 14 years, still standing strong.
Congratulations.
So, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So on our Facebook page, we're laughing because I said to former and current staffers, I know you have some real funny and entertaining Deidre Malone stories over the years. And Patrice, you need to go look at the page because they do have some. Okay. So I want to thank our viewers for watching our show today. You've been watching Dialogue with Deidre. We will be back here on Monday, same place, same time. Let us know what you think about the show. Email me at deidre@deidremalone.com, or just post it on the Dialogue with Deidre Facebook page or the M1 TV Network Facebook page. We appreciate you, and we want you to have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much for watching.